All right, so we've spoken about the process of onboarding the client kind of here in between these videos, but let's actually jump into it as a full topic. So how does this work from start to finish? Number one, there's the initial pitch to speak to the business owner and see if this is something that they are interested in taking a look at. If they are interested in taking a look at saving money on their fees, the first step is getting a merchant statement. Now, a merchant statement doesn't have any unique identifying or personal information about the business itself. Like there's no account numbers, there's no banking information on there. All it shows is what are the transactions that came in for that business, what are the fees being assessed, and what are the fees being assessed for both the credit and debit cards, but also what additional fees are being assessed for that account. Now, when we get this, my team does a side-by-side cost comparison of what do they have now, what fees can we completely get rid of, and then what can we reduce the existing card fees to. Now, many times we see that businesses have usually between like a 3 and 3.5% fee, sometimes a bit higher, and that can be maybe a 3% or 3.5% fee for debit cards, and then a 3.5 or 4% fee for credit cards. Now, on this statement, we'll see how much you're being charged for Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and Discover, and then we can offer better rates for each of those individually, sometimes at a pretty high margin where they're really putting a lot of money back into their pocket. But we're also seeing what they're getting charged per transaction, we're seeing what they're being charged for to get access to like an online terminal, to get the technology they have in their store. All of these additional things really add up, which is why before I said that sometimes businesses are being charged 10 to 20% higher than they really think, because they think, oh, I'm getting charged 3.5% per transaction. But what they don't take into account is the subscription costs, their equipment fees, and all those that really add up. Once we get the statement, my team is going to get to work on doing that side-by-side comparison. Now, what we're going to need you to get from the client as well is just a basic pre-application. The pre-application is going to get the business's name and the name of the LLC. So the LLC name could be Best Coffee Inc. But then the coffee shop name could be Best Coffee. It would have the business name, Best Coffee, and then the corporation name, Best Coffee Inc. Now, if they have a website, we need the website. We need information about like things they have in their location. So if they have a point of sale system, if they have like smaller terminals that they're carrying around, we'll get all the equipment information up front so we know what we can offer them on the back end. Now, additionally, there's a bit of a sales pitch in here as well. So, you'll tell them about our product offerings and what we can do. But it's really not that complicated. Keep to some just main topics. So you can say, hey, I have a friend, or I work for this company, or I'm in this business and we do payment processing. What do you have now? Oh, well, I use XYZ company. Okay, great. How's their support? Do you get charged a lot of fees with them? Ask these questions, and I'll have a little thing below here in the school community on what questions you'll be asking them or what information you want to gather up front, so then you can relate to them how we are better. Now, if it's as simple as, I don't get good support, well, they're not getting good support because it's a 1-800 number to call, or they send an email and they have to wait 7 days to get a response back. Well, we have better support because we have a number that they can call 24/7. We have immediate text support, so they can message us in, we'll get an instant reply back to them. If they send us an email, we'll get back to them same day or next day. And if it's really urgent, like I said before, they can just call us. If their machine stops printing receipts, well, that's very urgent. They need a solution right now. And our team can jump on that immediately without waiting days and days and days. I actually walked into my haircut the other day and their machine was down. So they had to key in the information. Well, that was something that I was immediately able to kick off that conversation, and now I'm having follow-ups to get the information that I need to show them what I can do. Now, I'm going to both lower their fee and solve the problem of their equipment going down because, well, number one, I know that our equipment is the most reliable. But number two, if they have that issue, they can call me and I can three-way in my back-end team and we'll solve that problem for them right now, where they're not going to have their terminal down for days and days and days. Now, once we have the merchant statements and the pre-application, then we're going to do that internal rate review, like I said. Now, once we complete that review, we're going to get on a call with you. We're going to say, all right, Here's the side-by-side comparison. They're paying 3.5%. We're going to lower that to 2.75. They're paying an extra 50 basis points on additional terminal fees and all these other things. We're going to wipe those out completely. So they're going to save this much per month. Let's use some easy math. Let's say they're paying $5,000 in fees right now. We're going to lower that to $3,000 in fees overall, saving them $2,000 a month. Now, $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year, and that is $72,000 over a 3-year period. We always break it out monthly, annually, and by 3 years. 100 basis points is 1%. So 50 basis points, that's 0.5%. If we lower a fee from 3.5%, which is 350 basis points, to 2.75%, 275 basis points, that is a 75 basis point decrease, right? So 350 minus 0.75 is 2.75. Now, when we do this rate review, during this call, we're going to show you, hey, we're lowering their fee to 2.75. Here's the total commission that we're going to make off this deal, and here's what you're going to make. Now, based on that, you're going to decide, do I want to take a monthly residual income, or do I want to take an upfront commission? Now, if you are actively involved and you're communicating with the client throughout this process, you'll be able to choose to take the monthly residual, or if you're inactive, or based on the deal that we work out, based on your situation, then you'll get the upfront commission, or you'll get paid out on the monthly basis. We'll go over commissions in another video, so I'll just postpone that to then. Now, when we present the rate to the client for maybe that first call or maybe the first couple, we can do that on a group setting. Honestly, I found this to be really straightforward. You can kind of overcomplicate the process and go line item by line item. What I found to be very effective is just jumping on a quick call with the client and saying, hey, after analyzing the statement, you were indeed paying 3.5% for your card fee, and you had a 10-cent per transaction. So every time the card is swiped, minus 3.5%. Also, additionally, minus 10 cents per transaction. But also, Mr. Business Owner, you're paying an additional $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 a month in these other subscription costs. So we're going to remove those completely. So what we're able to do for you is lower your 3.5%, which is costing you $5,000. Lower that to 2.75%, which, don't quote me on this math, but let's say it's $3,000. We're going to save you $2,000 a month on your processing. We're also going to save you $2,000 a month in the additional fees. So right now you're paying $7,000 overall. We're going to cut out the additional fees minus $2,000, cut out the per transaction fees, another $2,000. So you're going to go from $7,000 a month in processing fees to $3,000 a month in processing fees. Right then and there, they don't need to go over every little intricate detail. It's very, very straightforward. They understand it. Now, also on this call is when they kick back, they're like, oh, like this is amazing, this is great. I also throw in there as well about the 0%. Now, I always let them get excited about the savings first before I open up the 0% conversation. So when I open up the 0% conversation, I say, perfect, I'm glad you're excited about that. But we also have this other option as well. Now, the other option is reducing it to 0. So by doing that, Mr. Client, we can actually lower the $7,000 in fees not to $3,000, but to 0. Now, in that scenario, we have the option where this is where we talk about the cash discount or other programs that are available for in-person merchants, or the surcharging for somebody who has the online. Now, without getting too complicated, we can also do a bit of a hybrid model where they're passing along some of the fee to the consumer, but keeping some of the fee in-house. So if somebody pushes back and they're like, well, I don't really want to do it to the customer because of XYZ reason, or you can say, okay, well, we can definitely lower your fee to the $3,000, or we could have it shared between you and the customer, where we can maybe lower your fee to $1,500 a month. So then $1,500 over the course of all your customers is being covered by them, and then $1,500 is being covered by you. Now, business owners love that option as well, and that's something that can also increase our commission. Now, let me explain this to you. When we do the 0% fee for the business, there is more commission in it for us. So obviously, we're more incentivized to have the most money go back into the business owner's pocket. Now, usually we see about a 2x increase So let's say we're sharing a commission of 50 basis points. Well, if we do a 50 basis point spread on lowering that client's fees, if we pass it on to the customer, we could see 100 basis points, right? So when we're sharing that commission, we're making much more when the fee gets passed along to the customer. Even when it's a hybrid model and there's a surcharge program and the business owner is still covering some costs, that could be a 50% increase for us, right? So if the business owner is going 50-50 with their customer, then an example, we go from 50 basis points overall to 75 basis points overall, and then of course that commission increases for you. Now, I know I went through that a little quickly, but the basics there is whatever the business owner is the most comfortable with, we can do that for them. Now, when they're on this call, this is typically where they're making that decision on, do I want to lower the fee to, in this case, same example, to the 3,000? Do I want to pass it over to the consumer entirely? Or do we want to just lower the rate even more where it's going to share between both parties? Once they relay that information to you, you relay that information to us. Also on this call, you let them know as well that we'll get them the equipment upgrades. Now, some businesses, it makes sense where we can cover that equipment cost 100%. In other cases, we will either share in that cost or maybe they'll cover it completely. This is a case-by-case scenario, and it'll be discussed during that internal rate review where we're reviewing the difference in rates with you. For example, if somebody has a much larger processing where they're doing a couple $100,000 or even $1 million a month, then maybe their equipment cost is $10,000 or $15,000. Well, if we can lower that to $2,500 or $5,000, then they're still saving massively on that front, but then we're still adding some costs on our side. We're not coming out of pocket for it ourselves. Now, once they agree to those rates, the next step is having the merchant agreement being signed. So you come back to us and you say, hey, they want to go with the lowered rate. They're not going to do 0%. Perfect. We plugged it into the agreement. We send it out to them. Once it's signed, we get them set up on their portal, get equipment sent out, and then all is well. Now, once their merchant agreement does come back, that's where it goes to underwriting. Underwriting usually takes 1 or 2 days to come back, and then they can be immediately set up. Online businesses, of course, it is much faster for the implementation because it's as simple as us activating their API codes on the back end and then being able to plug it into their Shopify store or to their website. If we have to ship out equipment, obviously that takes another couple of days, but we can of course get them set up online to be able to take payments immediately. So going back to the steps, number 1, it's the initial pitch, telling them about, finding out from them what their pain points are, showing them or explaining to them how we're going to be able to solve those pain points. We get the merchant statement and the pre-application. Once we get those things back, the merchant statement, we do the internal review, side-by-side comparison, kick that back to you. You find out what you're going to make on the account. You decide if you want to do the upfront commission or the residual income. You then present those rates to the client. Client says, yes, I want to move forward with this option or this option. Once they choose the option they want to do, we send out the merchant agreement. They sign that, comes back to us. The merchant agreement then goes off to underwriting, and the underwriting team approves the account. Once the account is approved, we send out equipment and everything is activated and they're up and processing with us. Now that business owner, once that equipment is activated, they start saving and putting that money back in their pocket immediately. So if a business owner is processing, for easy math, $300,000 a month, $10,000 a day, if they're going to save 75 basis points on that transaction, then the business owner is putting an additional $75 a day back into their pocket, which is additional revenue going right to their top and bottom line, and that money they see immediately back into their bank account.